Hi everyone, my name is Delindra Tarsavina and we're here doing My God My Biz. What is My God My Biz? My God My Biz is where we discuss with business owners on how they stepped out on faith, how they just moved from one part of their life to a new part of their life without even understanding why or what made them want to do it. It was nobody but God. And sometimes we feel that God is not trying to get us where we need to be, and he'll cause a storm to happen to make you move to the place he's trying to take you to. And we want to fight with God, and we want to have just an all-out battle with him. But if you pay attention to this story today, you will understand what God is trying to do in your life. So when we get back, you will get to hear a story about Mr. C.A. Murff. Stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back and we have Mr. C.A. Murff here, and I'm so excited about him because I was reading his bio and then I was reading on the company that he's with, and it is amazing. So one thing I've heard was that you were a former president of over 7 companies in Michigan.
Yes.
Tell us about those businesses.
You know, it's interesting. First and foremost, let me just say thank you for inviting me here today. I'm truly honored to be here, and just I've been hearing about all of the success that you've been having.
Well,
so congratulations on your success.
Thank you so much.
And in the intro, when you were saying that we go through different struggles and
yes.
Fighting with God, and when you are in your purpose, things just seem to click. Mm-hmm. And I've been here with LegalShield for 19 years now.
Wow.
So it definitely has clicked for me because in essence this has been like my ministry in terms of helping and protecting individuals, families, as well as business owners, and then finding those with an entrepreneurial spirit, and then helping them through a simple, proven system. And when I say simple, the system is simple, but anytime you're dealing with people, it can be complicated, as you know.
It is.
As you know. But in terms of my background, so I'm originally from Michigan. I was a former owner of 7 Michigan corporations. I did the things that we traditionally taught,
yes.
Go to school, get good grades, and get a good job. And I did 2 of them well, but I had my challenges, but I did graduate with my bachelor's degree in business, and I had been involved with, different businesses. My first was a pest control company with one of my business partners, TechCom Pest Control, and then had limousine service, which was casino limousine service, and this was a bit ahead of our time. At that time, Mayor Young was around, and he wanted to see the casinos happen, but they didn't happen during his tenure.
Oh, wow.
But eventually we got there. But I had some contracts with different hotels and putting on, I should say I was putting them on, but we would have a package where we would take them to dinner, to a concert, and then bring them back.
That's nice.
Yeah, so it was a nice outing. And so that went from there into real estate rentals, and had an apartment building, then went into adult foster care, had done a number of adult foster care facilities, and was actually the co-founder of the Wayne County Providers Committee, where we went and lobbied on behalf of the clients that we took care of, and they were anywhere from 18 to 80. Generally they were duly diagnosed schizophrenic and some type of drug or alcohol or both type of abuse, and the goal was to just help them get back on some solid footing and then back out into the community. Wow. And we put together this lobbying arm that would just, on behalf of the caretakers for them work with the state on funding. And that was always a challenge.
I'm sure it was.
And as we went into the AIDS epidemic, the different requirements in terms of gloves and different gear, as this was, early on when this just came out, there was additional requirements without the additional funding, and that was kind of my clue to start saying, okay. So I was in prayer looking for something, and my best friend and I were out in Ohio, and his mother lived out there, and there was a place called Buffalo Wild Wings, and it's pretty common now. Wasn't as common back then.
Yes.
And we went, man, and they were just having a great time. It was crowded, very festive, and I enjoyed myself. And we left, went back to Michigan, and then about, 6 months later, we went back to a party that his cousin was having out there, and we went to a different Buffalo Wild Wings. Here again, it was lively, festive. I'm like, man. So I said, we need one of these in Michigan.
Okay.
And that proved to be quite the challenge to actually get done. There were a lot of obstacles that I won't bore you all with here today, but eventually we were successful in opening up the Buffalo Wild Wings across the street from Michigan State University.
Wow.
And they're still there today. It's been quite successful. And between that and opened up a location in Southfield, Michigan, suburban area of Detroit. And between those two, they were the two largest in the chain, two of the top 5 grossing. And while that may sound impressive, look, it didn't take me long. And again, this is from my personal experience that it was just, too much stress. You've heard the saying, all money isn't good money.
Yes.
And we had 120 employees.
Wow.
And all of the headache, aggravation, frustration, and hair pulling, I like to say literally, that
took the hair.
Hey. And so I ended up having an opportunity to sell, sold, and moved out to San Diego and got into the IT industry. And from the IT industry, I was a Microsoft engineer, Microsoft certified trainer. I was working during the day as an engineer and then teaching over at National University, teaching others how to get their engineering certification. And we had briefly talked about teaching before.
Oh, look at teaching this. Ooh.
Yeah, and I loved the ability to, when they have those light bulb moments, right, where you can see in the students them getting something, right? The kind of, and it's rewarding.
Yes, it is.
But all that other stuff.
All the paperwork and all unnecessary.
Yeah, and I was doing some trailblazing in that community as well in terms of being an African American teacher, and classroom didn't reflect that. So.
Wow.
So that was interesting. Had its own challenges, but I tell people that's where I kind of learned to stretch my comfort zone, because I would be there teaching, knowing that many of the students had more real life experiences in the workplace than I did, and so I would, in my initial intro, let them know, hey, listen, I'm sure you have some real world experiences. My job is to communicate to you what Microsoft wants you to know so that you can successfully pass the test. So not only will you have the experience, but you'll also have the certification that goes along with that. And so at the appropriate time, if you have some insights that you can share with us that's different than what Microsoft is telling us by the book, we'll be more than welcome to hear that at the appropriate time.
I like that.
And then I would go about teaching, right? But on that break, because we would take a break, I would walk down the stairs, get in my car, drive around the corner, and
Oh my goodness.
because I had to let all of that tension out some way, And then I would go back and get my posture going.
Like nothing ever happened.
And this was a daily routine.
Oh wow.
But I felt that I had something to give, just had to get the nerves out, and that was the best way I could come up with to get rid of the nerves at the time. Yeah.
Well, people don't realize how hard it is to even to teach, you know, because you're standing in front of a group of people that you're trying to give the knowledge that you have. And it is nerve-wracking. You have you're nervous. It's just like ministering. I'm a minister, so getting in front of an audience is very hard to me. And people think that you're confident, but in reality, I don't know if you're like me, I'm actually a very shy person. And it's like God has forced you into a place that you don't want to be. So it seems like that's where God took you from doing business all the way into where you were teaching a group of people who already knew, but Microsoft wanted them to do it their way.
Exactly. And man, because they had real life experiences, you know, I knew that I was just teaching book knowledge, right? And they had real life knowledge. And so it's great when you can blend the two, but that's blending, not combating, right? So that's, I wanted it to be in a complementary type thing, because I don't want to hold anyone back from their knowledge. And I knew mine was limited to what I had learned and what I knew Microsoft wanted them to know. And so from that perspective, yeah, I was successful at doing that, taking the things that were complicated, and once I understood the concept, the technical aspect of it, then I could convey that in a way that was entertaining and not dry and boring, because no one wants to sit through, a 3-4 hour class if it's boring,
not even
right?
a teacher.
Exactly. Yeah. So I wanted to have some fun while I was there too. If I'm gonna be there, yeah. So yeah, it was an experience. Absolutely.
So I mean, do people? Because back to what you were saying about the real life, they had the real life aspect, they had the experience, but I don't think a lot of people feel like it's important to have the education part to what you're doing. Don't you feel like it's important to get a certification in what you're doing so you can elevate or to?
Yeah, and that's interesting because, so in a job capacity, and I have a training that I do called Business 101, in a job capacity, certainly as the business owner, you want someone that knows what they're doing in their capacity through experience and what have you. While at the same time, let's say that you're a customer of that business, something goes wrong, now what they're asking is what type of certification does this person that know everything have? And so that business owner is, they want to have someone that's competent, but they also, for liability purposes, need to make sure that that person is also certified. And so I knew my value in providing that portion of that equation, that they would get certified, but they still needed to have the experience. And unfortunately, what happens a lot is the person is new, so they don't have life experience or, the skill set, right? And then they're at the same time getting the certification. So oftentimes what happens, a person may have all types of experience but no certification, doesn't have the means or the desire, because they're thinking, well, I know how to do this. Why do I need a piece of paper to say that, so there's a conflict, so they're not really applying themselves. So you get these two different dichotomies that are going. And then, the whole thing, and we'll hear it in the streets, they say, I'm working just hard enough so I don't get fired, right? And other people, as a business owner, they want to pay just enough so that you don't quit. So that's an adversarial relationship at its core. Now, with that said, as long as both parties have agreed, if you said, okay, this is what I'm worth, because they're going to tell you what you're worth, then you say, okay. And for many people, that works out great, because the stress level, right? Because I was saying I was stressed out in what I was doing as the business owner. So they don't want to factor that stress in. They'd rather go to work and get paid, which is great while that works. And in fact, if I can continue with my story, and I don't know when we need to take a break, so I want to be mindful of that. So in my capacity as I was working during the day as an engineer, and then I was teaching at night because I had a certain lifestyle that I was used to. I knew that I didn't want the stress anymore of employees, so I figured I could be a good employee, right? Because I didn't have all of that stress I was used to. I told people I was going to work like zippity-doo-dah.
I know, and by the time you leave, like, oh my God.
Because I figured I could handle a work without having the pressure of all of the bills, all of everything on me. And so when I went for my annual review, they said 25 is the highest you could score, and you scored a 25. I was like, man, I left out of there feeling like $1 million bucks. I had that sense of job security, if there's such a thing. At that time, that's what I was thinking. And the timing was good because I had just finished building my home from the ground up out in San Diego. So I was blessed to be able to do that. And I went and started buying furniture to fill up this home that I had just built. And with my newfound sense of job security, 3 months later, mind you,
oh goodness,
they called me back in that very office and they said, hey, business is taking a downturn. We're going to have to lay you off.
Wow.
And I was devastated. I mean, I had a brand new mortgage. I was driving a Mercedes at the time. I had all of the credit card debt from the furniture that I had been purchasing to fill up that new home. And it took me 6 long months before I could find another position as an engineer. And I remember going through that process and making a promise to myself that never again would I allow myself to be in a position where one person could control my financial future.
Wow.
Yeah, so I had been praying for something. It's interesting. I tell people that sometimes what we're praying for doesn't show up in the gift wrapping that we would expect.
Oh, no, it doesn't. So you had to go through that storm. God was pushing you.
Ooh,
He made it hard for you. He gave you all the goodness that you wanted, and all of a sudden he was like, hey, I'm trying to take you further. I'm trying to make it easy. But you're not listening, so he had to.
I was feeling like Job, boy. I'm telling you, that was me. I went through some challenges, but I always just kept the faith, and I always said, as long as I got this, and I'm willing to learn, and control, the associations, and the way again that's controlled is by the character and the person that you become in the process. And thankfully, God moved me around to the right people, and it was a blessing. Absolutely.
See, I like what you say, the character, keep the character. The character of when God is pushing you through a storm, because people feel like, okay, God is not doing this. Sometimes he does take you through that storm, but you have to keep that character of what you were saying, faith, knowing that even though you're going through this, you're going to be good. Like you are going, he's not going to take you somewhere that he's not going to lead you. He's not going to take you somewhere where he's not going to take care of you. So the character has remained the same from the good to the bad to get to the greater.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
Preach.
Not trying to preach
hey,
y'all.
for real though, because it's very accurate. Because there is no testimony without the test.
True.
And so, what I wanted these things, because sometimes you need to be humble, right?
Yes.
And so, and in doing that, you have a better appreciation, a better respect for people, and know that everybody has their own challenges. Have a good friend, Tracy Broughton, who talks about she had been through not one but 2 car accidents that had left her physically paralyzed, and so she went through the struggle of being able to walk again, not once but twice, and overcame that challenge.
Wow.
And now just with the aid of a crutch, which is blinged out, she's able to do her thing. Yeah, she's a former Miss America as well.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. And so she talks about that. Her handicap is visual, right? You can see it, but sometimes we can't see others. But we all have our unique handicaps, if you will.
Oh, wow. So we're going to take a break, and we'll come back and talk about those handicaps and how they can affect you in your life, your business, your spirituality, all of those things when we come back right after these messages. OnPoint. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you've been paying attention to this story. If you haven't, please make sure you go back and watch it from the beginning. But I almost teared up because God is so good, and you don't pay attention to the things that God is doing in your life, you won't know where you're going. But he went from owning seven different businesses to moving to San Diego, teaching and working as an engineer, to losing the job that he thought was security. And many of you right now might be at jobs that you think are secure, and it's not always what you think it is. You could be going to something greater, and that's what you're getting ready to tell us about, right? The greater, because you thought it was good, and then it went to bad, but God was trying to get you to the greater. So what is the greater?
And it's interesting, and the comments that you had made during the break and what's going on in the community, Ms. Moore is definitely going to be able to assist with those decisions and things that need to happen through that path. So I'm excited that we're going to be able to bring value to the community, and really that's what it's all about, and what you're able to do with the platform that you've created. So congratulations for that.
Thank you.
And so for me, once I had, through no fault of my own, just like I talk about what has happened in 2020 through the pandemic, through no fault of their own, people found themselves in devastating situations that they never thought that they would be in. And much like for me, when you're getting an evaluation that says 25 is the highest you could score, and you scored a 25, forgive me, I'm thinking, okay, I done made it. And you know, because a lot of times people don't feel appreciated when they're working, right? And so for me to get, you know, confirmation that they valued my contribution made me feel good. And, you know, and I was doing well at the job, right? So, but when I got called in and they said, we no longer need your services, and I got laid off, it was a long stretch. 6 months is a long time.
It is. When
you're out there struggling. And I'm pretty sure I was able to get unemployment for that time, because I ended up being laid off. I didn't just quit, right? So, but it was a time, that again, I just went into prayer and said, and I always say this, not just in this conversation, but anytime I have an opportunity to share my story and what has happened with the company that I ended up aligning myself with, which is LegalShield, because I had been praying for something, and one of my neighbors said, hey, would you come out and take a look at the project that they're working on? And my father taught me that a wise person researches what a fool takes for granted. And so I was like, hey, I'll go and check it out. And when I saw the information, I was blown away. And through that presentation, now again, this is 19 years ago, and at that time, Forbes magazine had rated the company as one of the 100 best small companies in America.
Wow.
And that went on for like 7 years in a row. Now, Buffalo Wild Wings also had made that list. I said, I got 2 out of 100. I'm doing something right. So that was really all of the research that I needed, because I mean, I'm a realist, because I talk to people and they tell me, well, let me do my research. I mean, come on, we all know it's Google. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, but here, when you have Forbes, who is capable of doing real research, and that's what they had said, all I needed to do was verify that's what Forbes said.
Exactly.
And they did. So I'm like, after I got over being upset that no one had ever shared this information with me, because it would have saved me tens of thousands of dollars in my business endeavors, and also would have helped me personally as well. Wow. And so once I saw the value, knew that it was real, I'm like, okay, people need to know about this. And quite candidly, when I started, I was money driven, because I went through this 6-month period of adjustment. And so once I had started and I saw a way that I could earn some income, that was the major thing. Now, a byproduct of that was that I could help and empower people. I'm just being candid. And then, some months in, I'm at a grocery store, and a young lady calls me. I answer the phone, and she's crying. She's like, is this Mr. Murff? I'm like, yes. And she said, I just wanted to call and thank you, because without your services, I would not have been able to help my son. Wow. And I just wanted you to know, and I'm not a very emotional person, but man, that broke me up. I'm in the grocery store. And I don't have the best memory, but I remember this, because it was at that time like where it went from my head to my heart. Yeah. And I really understood that it was bigger than, just me, because this is all throughout the United States, all throughout Canada, that we're able to help and empower people. Wow. And it was that, and then just watching and learning from other people's journey that just solidified more for me that I had made the right choice, because I could help others and help myself at the same time. I knew people really needed the services that we provide, and we had always said that we do well during good times and bad, and I don't think any of us could conjure up something that was worse than what we went through, in 2020 during this pandemic. That's true. You look out on the street, it was ghost time. People weren't going nowhere. No. It was bad. The worst that, do we need to pause? I think I heard that click again. Oh, okay. So, I just making sure. Hey. You good. So that was a devastating period for a lot of people. And for businesses, like Nordstrom's closed several stores, and they have been around forever, right? Now, through that process, our company was actually up. We were thriving, not because we were taking advantage of people, but because we were helping and empowering them. We were able to help more business owners than we had in our history. And that's because people realized, man, what do I do about this? What do I do about that? And so you can't always, go to the dims I talk about, mama and them. You sure can. Your brother and them, right? You can't always do that. So eventually you need to really know that you know that you know. So even if you tried to research on Google, and Google does not have a law degree, by the way, but you find the answer that you need, right? And you're confident that that's the right answer. And it could be. However, that's the right answer for Michigan and not Alabama. Okay. Are y'all paying attention? That may have been the right answer in Alabama in 2017, but this is 2021. A whole new year. So all of these things, and for those that don't understand, what it is that LegalShield does, would this be the appropriate time to talk about it? Yes, please talk about it. So what LegalShield does, and it's been around since 1972. We're actually traded on the NASDAQ. Then we were the #1 performer on the American Stock Exchange. Then went over to the New York Stock Exchange. And after trading there for just 8 short months, Equities Magazine had ranked them as the 33rd fastest growing company on the entire New York Stock Exchange. And we've been featured in every major business publication. I talked about Forbes earlier, but Money Magazine, Black Enterprise, you name it, and we've been featured. USA Today said, to us, it sounds like healthcare before it turned into a $1 trillion business. Wow. Okay. And we enjoy an A+ rating on the Better Business Bureau. So that, is the foundation that created so much success that in 2011, a $8 billion company by the name of Mid-Ocean Partners heard about us and stroked a check for $651 million to acquire the company. Wow. Now, when that happened, I was blessed to be serving in the capacity as the regional vice president for the state of Nevada, and I was telling them that, look, companies don't spend this type of money to make millions. They spend that to make billions. Now, I was telling them this in 2011. And so then we were fortunate to have a gentleman come over as the CEO. This gentleman's name is Mr. Jeff Bell. And I can't say enough about him because I enjoy bragging about his accomplishments because this is who is steering the ship. This gentleman oversaw the U.S., Spain, and England division for the Ford Motor Company.
Wow.
Then went and worked with Lee Iacocca over at Chrysler. Was responsible for rolling out that Chrysler 300, which was attributed to saving the company. Put the 4 doors on what had always been the 2-door Jeep Wrangler, the Hemi engines. Then left there and went and worked with Bill Gates over at Microsoft.
Oh, wow.
As the vice president of global marketing for Microsoft. Xbox was one of his divisions. The Halo, Rock Band, those type of things. Jeff Bezos.
Oh, goodness.
And so we were blessed to have him come over as our CEO. He used the technology that we've experienced. Think about, I give the analogy of the taxi cab industry, where it had been around for decades, and then you have Uber comes along with no vehicles, just using the technology that made it simpler, easier, more affordable, and now they dominate that industry.
Yes, that's
Or
so true.
look no further than Blockbuster. Some of us are old enough or mature enough to remember Blockbusters, right? They had real estate all throughout the United States.
That's true.
Here comes Netflix with no real estate, just using the technology, made it simpler, easier, and more affordable. Now Blockbusters is Blockbuster. They gone, right? And Netflix is booming.
Yes.
So he used that same technology and created a mobile app that we can literally tap the app and get access to the best of the best attorneys on a nationwide basis. And what we do is we leverage over 4 million lives that we protect nationwide and into Canada. And because of that collective buying power, we give people access to the best of the best attorneys without having to pay the typical $300-400 an hour or more. And now they're able to get access for the whole year for what they would pay for 1 hour's work. That's why we were having such explosive growth. And so those mobile apps that he spearheaded on behalf of our company, 7 short years later, in 2018, a $19 billion company by the name of OnPoint Capital stroked a check for $1.2 billion. Remember I said companies don't spend that kind of money to make millions, they make billions. And so they stroked a check for $1.2 billion. I got the majority share of the company, and we've just been growing. And as I already mentioned, what happened last year, and we opened all throughout Canada in 2019. Went from a $1 billion company to over a $2 billion valuation company in 1 year. So that's all of the success behind the foundation that our founder, Mr. Stonecipher, the late great Mr. Stonecipher, had envisioned, which is giving everyone access to a system that most can't afford at $300 to $400 an hour.
Oh, you just said such a mouthful just then, because being a person in a little small area, Black Belt area, is so hard. You have a limited amount of lawyers, and those lawyers know each other. So it's like, say if you have a child that's going through something in jail, you're wondering, okay, well, should I go to this lawyer? But that lawyer is in the office with the prosecutor. So, you know, a lot of people are going through those issues. And then now that we're dealing with the land issues, some of those same lawyers have been trying to purchase the land. So who do they go to? LegalShield.
Man, that's a situation that's faced not only here in a smaller area, but in larger areas as well. We all know about the country clubs and you know, all of the things that go on there, but we also know that, you know, money talks.
That's true.
And so when you have the collective power of LegalShield, with the largest legal entity here in North America, because again, this is a nationwide network. And the business model is great because everyone wins. I mean, the LegalShield in essence gets a third, the attorneys get a third, and then us as business owners of, you know, of our own quote unquote franchise as a LegalShield associate, we get a third as well. So when you have a win-win-win, you can't lose. That's the way I like to look at that, right? And they have a vested interest in looking out on that party's behalf. So like we have a firm out of California, that one firm, Parker Stanberry, it's near like almost $2 million a month going to that one firm. So now they're incentivized to make sure that they're taking care of our clients, because you know, every so many months there's a review, and if in fact they aren't, you know, hitting the check boxes that they need to do in being a LegalShield law firm, then we'll look at a firm that will be willing to make sure that they're checking off those boxes. And you know, again, when I'm talking to people, I like to talk from a common sense standpoint, right? Because it's not, you know, your, you know, $30 or whatever a month. It's the collective amount that when you have that type of buying power, yeah, they may be cool with that friend at the country club, that other attorney, but not that kind of cool.
Not you messing up the money, no.
And that's what I'm saying. Money talks.
Exactly.
So yeah, and then they don't have to just answer to the American Bar Association. They have to answer to LegalShield, who's cutting that check on a monthly basis, that's paying for that firm, that doesn't have to put the billboards all over, put the yellow pages, because they're getting a third of that revenue that's already being created. And if they don't take care of their clients, they're hurting themselves, because if that client cancels, that revenue is not coming in.
That's true. So they have a check system, basically.
Absolutely.
It's not the good old boy system. It's a checks and balance system that LegalShield has provided for their customers.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, we're going to find out what LegalShield can do for you, how they can help you as far as your family, your personal life, and your business, and even how to grow this community. So when we come back from that, we're going to get more of this information about LegalShield that you need to know about. We'll be right back. OnPoint. And we're back. We have been having some amazing conversations. So if you are just tuning in, we went from having businesses to going to work for Microsoft and engineering at the same time, and then losing that secure job to now going into where God really wanted him to go to, and that was LegalShield. And he gave us a little background on LegalShield, but now it's time to get to the meat of the conversation. You know how you got the potatoes, but you want the meat? I need that meat, because we need to know what LegalShield can do. Like, I want you to kind of break it up for us first. Like, how can LegalShield benefit a family? Okay. And then let us know how LegalShield can help a business owner.
Okay, absolutely. And so I'm a Microsoft certified systems engineer. So I didn't work at Microsoft. I used that certification as an engineer, though, and I was working during the day as an engineer.
Yes,
and then teaching.
no, please correct me.
No, it's all good, because I don't want any of the Microsoft people. I remember seeing him at.
But he talked for me, y'all.
So, but let's see. So what it does, and I mentioned before, is that it's through that collective buying power, because let's face it, you know, attorneys are expensive. Now, they have, as an attorney, incurred a lot of expenses to get that degree too, though, right? They've gone through law school and all of the tests and studying and all of that. So, you know, I don't want to say that what they charge is not worth what they charge. It's just that most people can afford what it is that they charge. And so through our collective buying power, and I think they call it crowdfunding now, would be a more applicable term, right? And using that to drive that cost down. And what it allows for you to do, so it's $30 a month, and whether you're an individual or a family, that's why I said for what you would pay for 1 hour's worth of the typical attorney's time, we're going to take care of you and your family for the year. So what it allows for you to do is to just tap on the app and speak with an attorney about whatever your situation is. Let's say you're dealing with a family law issue, divorce, child custody, child support. You speak to a family law attorney. And one of the great things is if you're living here in Alabama, but your spouse may be in Michigan or may be in California, then because of our network, you're able to speak with that attorney in that other state as well, and be able to get the assistance that you need. Or let's say it's a real estate issue. You speak to a real estate attorney, so you're always speaking to the type of attorney that's proficient in the area in which you need the help. Now, on average, our attorneys have 22 years of experience, so it's not like you're dealing with a paralegal or somebody that's trying to figure this out. They are proficient in the areas. And if they believe that writing a letter or making a phone call on your behalf will help your situation, they'll do that at no additional cost. So they'll write a letter. They'll also review the documents and contracts, because as you were referencing earlier, some of the local situations that are happening here, being able to have these letters read so that you know that it's protecting your interests, right? Because some of this will look like Greek. You know, when you're trying to read the to if, though if, for if, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So it can be confusing. And they write it that way to keep their value. Yeah. So, because there's another way you could write that now.
Exactly.
Okay? But they want to make sure that you're attorney, I'm attorney, so we're going to talk attorney, right? but they'll be able to read that on their behalf, be able to properly advise them as to what they should do. Because these are some major decisions based on what you were sharing during the break that they're going to be faced with. So those type of things. Also, 80% of Americans don't have a current up-to-date will. Now, and you've been in the ministry, you know about them fights at the caskets and, you know, siblings no longer speaking to one another. And far too often I hear people say, well, you know, it's not like I got a lot of money. Listen, it could be a ring, it could be earrings, it could be a pen. That is of value to your loved ones.
Exactly.
And so versus leaving that for them to fight over, we not only prepare a will, but a living will, a healthcare power of attorney, and financial power of attorney. And in different states, some of those documents are referred to as different names, but in essence, everyone knows what a will is, right? You died, you said this is who you want to have what. A living will is letting you say, if you're on life support, do you want to be on it for 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years? Let's let you decide, versus us having a situation that happened with Terry Schiavo, where their family were fighting for, I think it was about a decade, and hundreds of thousands, if not millions, that were lost there because, you know, the spouse wanted one thing, the parents wanted another, the children wanted another. And these are real life issues.
That's true.
That, you know, we can make that decision though, versus putting that burden on our children, on our siblings, or our parents, or our loved ones. And then you also have the financial power of attorney, because if we're hospitalized or, you know, in a situation where we just aren't able to make these financial decisions, we can't say, hey, listen, we're sick, you know, we get back with you in a few months. No, those collectors are going to need to, so who you have designated to handle your financial affairs, that's the financial power of attorney. And then the, so you got the financial power of attorney, and then, will, living will, healthcare, the healthcare power of attorney. So the healthcare power of attorney, and this was really important as we were going through this pandemic, because a lot of times people were falling into comas and things like that. Who do you have designated to make those type of medical decisions on your behalf? So, you know, you look at people that, like if they're not married, then it will go to like their parents, if their parents are of sound mind, because let's say, I know with my parents, they had dementia, so they are not of sound mind. So then they would look, okay, he's not married, then it would go to their siblings. And I don't want my sibling making that decision on my behalf. So you designate who you want making that decision. But listen, most people don't have the will. Let's stop there. But I've said that not only do we take care of your will, your living will, your healthcare power of attorney, and financial power of attorney, as our way of saying thank you for even trying our services, because there's no long-term commitments. So if they are viewing this information and they know that they don't have a current up-to-date will, it's a great way to get that done. That's anywhere from a $500 to $1,000 value for an individual. For a couple, that's $1,000 to $2,000 value. And then they'll, you know, often ask about trust. Well, we will do a trust at a discounted rate, But what I want you to understand is through your conversation with your attorney, they will be able to determine whether or not a trust would make sense, because it's based on a mathematical equation as to what your assets are once they make the deductions for your particular state. Here again, you can't cookie cutter what works in Alabama is going to work in Ohio, right?
True.
So in talking with that attorney from that state, based on those laws and rules that are there, will determine whether or not a trust would make sense. Now, some people will blanketly say you need to get a trust, and you know, based on my limited experience, I found that is not always the best
It might
option.
be,
Yeah.
Is it because they want to get that extra money?
Well, no, because to get the trust is going to cost them.
That's what I'm saying. Is the attorney just telling them so they can get that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And see, and here again, when you're dealing with LegalShield, our attorneys are already paid. Their objective is to serve you versus bill you, because they've already been paid.
And you said they got that check and balance.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do the will preparation. I talked about reviewing documents, write letters on your behalf. Also, if you're ever stopped, like, and this is important, especially in the minority community. I mean, so if you or your loved ones, now this covers the whole immediate family, so let me be clear there. That's the member, their spouse or significant other. They don't have to be married as long as they're living in a household together as a couple. Any of their children that have never been married up to the age of 26, as long as they're in college or away in college full time or living at home, either of those. Now, if they're mentally or physically challenged, they can be covered for the lifetime of that membership. So, but the 24/7 emergency access, I can't help but think of how different several things that we've seen on social media, on the news, would have turned out if that person could have politely said to the officer, listen, officer, I'm not sure what this is all about, but I want to get my attorney involved, which is all right. I mentioned this earlier. We have the right to remain silent. We have the right to an attorney. Well, if you are a LegalShield member, then you have 24/7 access for emergency situations.
Wow.
And emergency situations are things like you're being questioned, detained, arrested, served with a warrant, Child Protective Services shows up. And that's 24/7 for you and your covered loved ones. I'll give you an example. So in Nevada, there's an affluent area called Summerlin. And I was dressed, business casual. I drive a nice vehicle. I drive a Genesis. So I'm at this light to make the left. I'm going into Tibolo Village for any of you Nevadans that know the area. And so I'm in the left turn lane. The light is red. And a few lanes over is this officer that I see off to the right. He's by himself. And so when the light turns green, the arrow, I turn left to go for my meeting. Well, I notice that the officer cuts across the lanes and comes in behind me, so I pull in and I back in, and he drives by kind of slow and looks at me. I see him. I'm on a business call, as a matter of fact. So, but I'm at my appointment a little early. So he drives down and parks in the distance. When I say park, stops at the end of the street, but doesn't actually take a park in spot, right? Just stops. And I see him out of the corner of my eye, but I'm talking business. So some time goes by, I don't know, 5-6 minutes. And then he drives back by, and he's a little slower this time. He looks at me, and I see he's on his walkie-talkie. I'm still on my business call and don't think a whole lot about it. And another 6 or 7 minutes go by, and it's time for me to go into my appointment. So I step out of the vehicle and I start walking. 2 other police cars pull up.
Oh, wow.
I look at the police, they look at me.
Wow.
I keep walking because I know I haven't done anything wrong. And then I turn the corner, another police car. So a total of 4 police cars.
Oh, wow.
Now, they didn't say anything to me. But just the peace of mind of me knowing that I could say, hey, listen, officer, I'm not sure what this is all about, but I want to get my attorney involved. That peace of mind for me was priceless. But see, and here's the deal, because we could say, oh, we're law-abiding citizens and so forth. Many of the things that we've seen on TV, those could be law-abiding citizens as well. But we never know how we might react when we know that we are being disrespected for no reason.
That's true.
See, so I don't even want to be tempted with any of that.
But see,
I'd rather just say, hey, listen, officer, I'm not sure what this is all about, but let me get my attorney on the line.
I was gonna say that, just like you said, knowing that you have LegalShield, that probably would keep you calm.
Oh,
she was like,
absolutely.
okay, I know I got this. I'm not even gonna worry, because even if.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's good to have the even if with LegalShield.
Absolutely. And for any of you that already have LegalShield, make sure that that app is on the front page of your phone. You don't want to be fumbling through your phone. Hold on. You don't want to be doing that.
As you get that car behind you, you find this app.
Hey. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's good. So, basically for families, you can do that. You'll have a health attorney.
Part of the will is the living will, the healthcare powertrain, financial care. So that's like your estate plan that we provide at no additional cost.
No additional cost.
They're able to pick up the phone, ask questions. Then again, that's on an unlimited basis. So if they have 10 different questions, they can call 10 different times. They may have 10 different attorneys depending on, is this a family law, if it's a real estate law, different things like that. You also have the moving violation. So anywhere throughout the United States, if you have a moving violation, then the attorneys can go to court on your behalf. Now, again, it needs to be a defensible type of situation. If you're doing, 50 in the school zone, we recommend prayer. Okay. But what can happen is, like, I'll just use my example. I got pulled over. The officer said that I was doing 48 and a 30. And I was very polite. I said, officer, there's no way that I was going 48. And I wasn't. Now, he gave me a break at 5 miles an hour over the speed limit. And, but if I would have paid that ticket, even at 5 miles an hour over the speed limit, which would have admitted guilt, my car insurance could have gone up more on a monthly basis than all of these services that I'm talking about here today, and not just for the next 2-3 months, but for the next 2 or 3 years. And because I knew that, I sent it in. They went to court on my behalf, and in my situation, they got it reduced to illegal parking, no points, no traffic school, no fine. But, I know that the attorneys are much more capable of arguing my position than I am. Because we all know, like, if you go and the officer doesn't show up, there's a chance that it may get thrown out. But what if the officer does show up? What do we say? Or what if the ticket is out of state? Do we want to risk driving out of state? And now listen, this is not a license to speed, but we all know that things happen. In fact, if you're ever in a situation as a LegalShield member, and God forbid someone is killed in this car accident, which happens every day, then as long as there were no drugs or alcohol involved, and you and the vehicle were properly licensed, we take care of all of the attorney fees in that instance. And that's anywhere, it could be $20,000, $30,000 worth of legal fees, because you're talking about a death here. And, sometimes, people are trying to mortgage their home, but if you don't have a home, where are you going to get this $20,000, $30,000 from?
No.
So that's where, just having these type of things in place really does help and empower that family.
Yes. So you see how this can benefit your family. So when we come back, we're going to see how it benefits your business. You already know what you need to do, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to tell you how you can get involved in LegalShield. Don't worry. We got it coming for you. But we just got to give you make you want to eat it. We got that steak in front of you right now. I've been thinking about steak all week. We got that juicy steak in front of you right now. So we're getting ready to tell you later on how you can eat it. How you can have it.
Is that what you cooking over in there?
No, I wish I was cooking today. Y'all might not hear my stomach. My stomach over here growling.
One of ours.
Look. But when we come back, we will give you more information on that.
We were meant to be together through adversity. So I felt the need to let you know that you're mine.
and we've been talking about how LegalShield can help your family. And see, in between the breaks, we've been doing these conversations that you have not been able to benefit from unless you've been watching us on live. But he was getting ready to say something that was going to be really juicy. He was like, no, we're going to wait and put it on.
Well,
so what was it? Because I'm like, what is it?
well, no, the topic of Black Friday came up, and we it's interesting because during the holiday season, I find it interesting that people will spend money to stay in debt, but won't invest money to get out of debt.
You have said, oh my goodness. Did you?
And I mean, we're going to have an opportunity, as I mentioned, we'll talk about the webinar later, and you can see some of the things that are available to you, even by year's end. I mean, like we have a two-step system that I talk about that will put over $1,900 in somebody's bank account. But I'm getting ahead of myself, but that was only because of the sales and just thinking about it. Because I've seen this for years. People be using that credit card.
I know.
Like they don't have to pay the stuff on the credit card. I'm like, just because there's some room on it, I'm like, but all right, let me not. Okay.
But I mean, you're true though. Y'all buying Lil Johnny all these toys, and Lil Johnny ain't got no grades, but you want to put yourself in debt so that you can look good for the Joneses and the Thomases and the Smiths. But you need to take at least that $30 a month and make sure your family is legally safe.
Yeah. And stay with us to the end, because you'll want to know. I mean, so that because I can get ahead of myself.
Oh yeah, we're not gonna jump.
So with business, so we were talking about what we do for businesses, and one of the things that we didn't talk about for families is the identity theft protection. And I'm going to link this though to the business owners as well, because we have an award earning ID Shield. And I've been saying that we had the best that was out there for years, but when you have in 2018 Javelin, who had been rating identity theft companies, in 2018 said best in class, 2019 U.S. News World Reports best in class. 2020 we earned the Cybersecurity Award, earned it again in 2021, and I think the one that really takes it all home is Forbes magazine 2021 said that we were the best identity theft overall protection is out there, 5-star. So when I'm talking to you about what it is that we provide, we're talking about the best of the best, not the rest, but the best. And so because I'm not proficient with restoring my identity, I've never had to do that before. If a professional is going to steal my identity, it just makes sense to me to have a professional restore it.
Well.
And so when you're talking about, when we made this pivot from working in office environments where you had the IT department and the firewall, so if I accidentally as an employee clicked on an email, then it was self-contained.
Yeah.
But when we pivoted and we started working from home, that same email that I may accidentally click on opens up Pandora's box. And this is why it's such an uptick with the identity theft, the breaches. I mean, what was it, T-Mobile a couple of months ago, 100 million of their people's information. Shortly before that, it was Facebook, 500 million.
Yes.
So it's not a question of if, it's a matter of when. And so we provide, as I've already mentioned, the best that's out there. We do the whole digital DNA for you and your family members, and we're monitoring that. We're going to alert you. That's not unique, but what is that we use our private licensed investigators that will go out and restore your identity back to pre-theft status. And our motto is that we do whatever it takes for as long as it takes to restore your identity back to pre-theft status, and back that up with the $1 million service guarantee.
Wow.
Now, because of what we had talked about previously with the pandemic, where people were just devastated financially, it ruined a lot of people's credit.
True.
And so as long as the person has the ID Shield and the LegalShield, then they can unlock what is our credit counseling. And I do want to be clear, it's credit counseling, not credit repair. There's been a lot of negative stuff that has happened in that credit repair arena. But what we do in the credit counseling is make sure that a person knows what is necessary and the steps that they should take to rebuild that credit. And so we'll do that through the counseling. I mean, because a lot of times things are counterintuitive to what you think you should do versus what you should actually do to help that credit score, because everything is based on credit now.
That's true.
And so as I transition to what we do for businesses, let me just say that award-earning ID Shield, earlier this year we expanded that to ID Shield for Business. And what that does is it allows for business owners who generally don't have the IT department that I just referenced, don't have the technical skill set, is to be able to have us monitor their URLs or the nodes that are there for any of these potential breaches. And then what we do is we do a scan on those systems and say, okay, this is what you need to correct to make it secure. Because indirectly or directly, if you're taking people's personal information,
That's true.
you're inevitably responsible for that. So when they have these breaches, we hear about the breaches, but what we don't hear about is the things that are going on in the background that they need to clean up with the FTC and all of this other type of stuff.
That's true.
So we provide that. The other thing is that as a business owner, when you're signing lease agreements, whether it's for vehicles, trucks, equipment, office leases, you'll see in the fine print, it says that if your credit worthiness takes an adverse hit, then we can adjust your interest rate on this leased equipment, on this leased environment, accordingly. Now, when I say that to business owners, they start nodding. They be like, "Yeah, I can remember it," because it's in most of the contract, and it makes sense, right? Because everything, as I mentioned, is already based on your credit worthiness. So, if in fact you have something in or outside of your control that negatively impacts that credit score, then they can now adjust that lease. So, having ID Shield would alert you in the event that you had a situation. And I'll go back to my personal experience. So, March of last year, as the COVID crisis was taking hold, 2020, one of my creditors reached out and said, "Hey, Mr. Murff, we have a deferment program that we can set you up on, so for the next few months, you don't have to worry about making any payments while we figure out what's going on with this COVID crisis." I'm like, "Great, sign me up." Okay, so they sent me a notification. It was April 10th saying, "Hey, you're all set. You don't have to worry about making these payments for the next few months." So I'm like, "Okay, cool." Well, because I have ID Shield, some weeks go by, I get an alert saying, "Hey, you have a delinquent account." I get another alert. You got a delinquent account. I look, it's the same creditor that supposedly has me set up on this deferment program. Now I'm thinking, okay, this is an easy fix. I call the company. The person I get on the line, they're giving me the runaround. I get frustrated, hang up. I call the credit bureau directly, and they cut me off mid-sentence. Say like, sir, you have to submit a formal complaint online with any supporting documentation. Well, I had the supporting documentation, so I sent that in. And while I'm waiting on the results of their quote-unquote investigation, my credit score went down 55 points. That's a significant drop. Now, I'm like, oh snap. So then, to add insult to injury, when they send me their results of their investigation, it says, "We have verified this is accurate and updated it." So that was it. They wasn't going to do anything else. Yeah.
Change the score?
No, they didn't change the score or anything.
Wow.
Now, ID Shield did what it was supposed to do, let me know, hey, what's going on. I did what I was supposed to do, let them know, hey. But then, when I couldn't get it resolved, I called my attorneys because I have LegalShield. LegalShield wrote one letter on my behalf to that creditor. And then exactly 30 days later, and I'll show this tonight on the webinar. So, because I don't look, I understand that documentation beats conversation. I get it. But so they wrote one letter. It was a 2-page letter on my behalf to that creditor. And exactly 30 days, I got a letter back from them This was our mistake. We have notified the credit bureaus. How do I know that they notified the credit bureau? Because on the exact same day of that letter, July the 9th, is the day that my credit score was fully restored. So, as a business owner, you want to make sure, because see, when I'm talking to business owners and I bring up ID Shield, they're thinking to themselves, okay, I'm good, or I got this, I got that, but why not have the best? And for many, they don't have anything in place.
Yes.
Now, as it relates to LegalShield, for what we do for business owners, is much of what we do as an individual. So when a person has, like many of us are part of what they call the gig economy, right? Because we've realized the tax advantages of being able to write off different things, right? So when you're a business owner, now in the traditional sense, you have the brick and mortar, you have the insurance, you have the employees, you have the overhead, the inventory, all of those things. But fortunately, with LegalShield, you're still a business owner, you're a 1099, so they're saying, hey, we paid this person X amount of dollars. And so that is what you would need to pay taxes on after you've made the deductions. Now, let me put my disclaimer out there. I am not an accountant. Talk with your accountant. But things like, your cell phone, your monthly cell phone expense, your internet access monthly expense, your laptop or tablet or whatever it is that you're using, all of those things become deductions. And so now you're keeping more of your hard-earned income. One of my mentors, Mr. Mike, that was interesting. There's a backstory, but I won't get there. Mr. Hume said, it's not how much you earn, it's how much you keep that makes all of the difference.
Wow.
So, and there's a whole lot of them little one line. Over 20 years.
That's a good one though.
Oh yeah, no, but they're based on principles. And so when a person has the right principles, then those can lead you in the right direction. But when you have no principles, what is that? Any road to take you there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So for the businesses, they can pick up the phone and get business questions answered. And now if I stop right there, for most business owners, they'd be like, okay, yeah. So they can get those business questions that they have or concerns. Hey, I'm thinking about letting this person go. I know I'm at an at-will state, but how would that impact blah, blah, blah. They also will have documents reviewed on the business's behalf. Because if a person just has our personal plan, it will not review any business documents. So like when I was talking about the gig economy, so if they're an Uber driver, or if they're do nails from home or have rental property or anything where you're using that Schedule C, then that would allow for that to be, if you ever audited, if you have our small business plans or our home business supplement, it will cover the Schedule C. If you're audited and you work a job and you get a W-2, that's also part of the coverage that we provide under LegalShield for families and individuals. But here, if you have Schedule C, we'll take care of that as part of the either our home business supplement, meaning that you're running your business from home, or you have a traditional brick and mortar. We have 3 different types of businesses, business plans for those businesses. It's just a matter of how many documents roughly would you think that you would like to have reviewed on a monthly basis, things like that. How many collection letters, because we'll do collection letters on their behalf as well. And I talked about, if they're ever audited, we take care of that. And one of the things that's really important is tripping up a lot of people is if they don't have their employee handbook. So if there's any question as to how this person, their hourly pay, or how this policy or that policy, and if it goes to the labor board, the first thing that they're going to ask is for that employee handbook.
And if they don't have that,
and if they don't have that, you're starting off with a fine, and then it's going to go up from there. So that's part of what we provide for business owners as well, the employee handbook. So all of those things, but as a business owner, it really just makes sense to have this in place. That's why I said, once I got over being upset that nobody had ever told me about this, because, business attorneys, and I did an article on this a couple of years ago, but they were like $600, $800, and over $1,000 an hour in New York.
Oh my God.
Yeah, business attorneys. So, yeah.
I cannot afford that.
And most attorneys will tell you they can't afford themselves. That's just reality.
And that's crazy. But ladies and gentlemen, many of you started businesses during the pandemic, and some of y'all need to start them businesses because y'all got them PPPs. Some of y'all might want to talk to some of these attorneys because you got a PPP and you did not have a business. Anyway, we ain't gonna talk about that. But so you see how it can help you as far as family. Now you're seeing how it can help you as far as business. When we come back, we're gonna find out how you can how you can be with LegalShield, how you can possibly make this a business of your own. And then we're gonna talk to Miss Tiffany, who still is looking like, I'm scared to talk. But that's okay. We're going to see how she can help us here in the Black Belt area when we return. There's a new tie in town, and it's Johnson Tie Knot Design. With the highest grade of silk, it is made for the professional look. JohnsonTieKnotDesign.com. Use promo code free shipping. OnPoint. Ladies and gentlemen, and you have heard such an amazing story. The process to getting to LegalShield and the benefits that LegalShield can do for your family and for your business. But now you need to know how you can learn and how you can get this information. So you were saying that you're getting ready to do a webinar. How can they get to this webinar?
So they can go to Zoom, ZOOM .Murff, MURFF, media, MEDIA.com. Zoom.murffmedia.com.
He's so professional, he got his own Zoom. See? So you're going to be discussing how they can become a partner with LegalShield?
Yeah, actually I'm going to discuss in detail
Okay.
the information that we've covered in terms of what we provide for individuals, families, as well as business owners.
Okay.
And so it will cover that information, and then we'll also talk to you about how, as a LegalShield rep, you would be paid for making sure that people knew that these services were available to them. Mm-hmm. And I'll quickly do it's called 2 steps to over $1,900 being into your bank account so that you can buy gifts with cash instead of credit.
That's good. Y'all excuse me. We were just discussing cleaning and we did a thorough cleaning in here. So you know how cleaning products can make you just be like, ah. So I definitely need to watch this webinar, and you, ladies and gentlemen, need to watch the webinar. We will put the information below where you can know how to get there and go, and you can reach Mr. Murff on doing that. But Mr. Murff, how, like, you know, the whole process, you know, the show that you're on, My God My Biz, like, you went from having these businesses to being a teacher and an engineer to losing it to going to LegalShield. A lot of people are scared to move when God says move, and then He had to make you move, and then people are still even scared to even still move forward when God is like, okay, hey, I'm trying to take you there. What the faith in you kept you going, and the faith in you kept you moving forward to where God needed you to do. What could you tell someone who right now is like, the pandemic has turned their life upside down, and even before the pandemic they might have been going through situations in life, and they're going through storms, and they're trying to keep that faith that Job had, that you kept. What could you tell that person?
Well, you know, faith is key. I mean, I was looking at a video that Steve Harvey did the other day, and he was just saying he doesn't understand how anybody can make it without faith. And he went on to profess, much like myself, is that, you know, we fall short, but we know our foundation.
That's true.
And, you know, when we talk about what we went through this pandemic, that it was devastating for a lot of people through no fault of their own, and they found themselves financially broke.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for far too many people, it broke their spirit as well.
That's true.
And I remember losing my brother suddenly. And he wasn't in the building on September 11th, but it was on the same day.
Oh, wow.
And that was a trying time for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then the beginning of the following year is actually when I found LegalShield.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a blessing for me, but I hear this a lot. People say that it was a blessing, but it allowed for me to be around people that were positive, upward, mobile. In fact, just to bring it home in this environment, one of the things that solidified my decision early on is I was at our conference, and our founder, Mr. Harlan C. Stonecipher, graced the stage, and the first thing he said is, my intent is not to offend, but I make no apologies. And then he started preaching scripture. Boy, I was like, woo, I got goosebumps, right?
Yes.
And so I knew I was with the right company.
Yes.
Right.
When you're willing to.
Yeah, when I was with a company that I could send out correspondence, and at the bottom I could say God bless.
Wow.
And if they had a challenge, I knew that they could talk to the CEO, the founder,
Because
about
he says it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he speaks of God.
But to have that type of environment that I was a part of, a God-fearing company, led by a God-fearing person, and just through the process. And as I mentioned, I've had ups and downs with LegalShield, just like I've had with other businesses, and just like all of us are going to have with life. But it's a matter of how you choose to deal with it, because Jim Rohn said it best, is that the winds of adversity blow on us all, but it's the setting of the sail that makes the difference. And so it's how we choose to respond to what happens to us. And I operate with 3 principles. I keep God first. I treat people the way that I want to be treated, ... or how they want to be treated. And I pride myself on being a man of my word. And so those had, shaped and molded my character and my relationships. And it's through those relationships that you are able to be around people that, because we all have our areas where we're not as gifted or come up short.
True.
But through our associations, and if they're the right associations, then we can find those people that, are strong in the areas where we are weak, and vice versa.
True.
And so for me to be able to watch not only people grow financially, but equally, if not more important, is the person that they are becoming in the process, as am I. Because I'm a work in progress. I continue to strive to be more, to do more.
Yes.
And I know that, just keeping the faith and continuing to do right by others. There's a saying that the more I can't get it right though, but it's the more people you help. The more people you help, you help
It just
yourself.
won't come out.
Yeah, it's not coming out right. But yeah, and I'm in the helping business, whether it's helping them with the services that we provide or helping them with a vehicle that I know can set them up for financial success, because we have residual income. I almost said no to this opportunity 19 years ago, and the guy said, I only have 2 questions for you. One is, what type of leverage income do you have? Now, when I had 120 employees, that was my leverage, but it was also my headache.
Okay.
and so here, I have business partners. And yeah, that can be frustrating, but it's not like, as I said before, I used to pay people to steal from me or training my competition. I said it's on my LinkedIn page because either one of those didn't make any sense. And so to watch the growth of people through this process. And he said, do you have, what type of leverage income? And I didn't have any. I have business partners now, so that's my leverage. But at that time when he asked the question, I didn't have any. Then the second question, he said, only have one more question. That was a bad answer, but only have one more question. What type of residual income are you creating for yourself and or your family over the next 3 to 5 years or beyond? God willing, you're gonna be here anyway. And I said, I don't have it. He said, both of those are bad answers. Whenever you're ready to change that, let me know. And I'm so glad that 19 years ago, I decided to go down this path, because had I not, I can't imagine how I would have been able to get through that pandemic. But not just the financial benefits of the residual, but for the associations and the positivity.
This is your girl, Calandra Gann.
And this is your girl, Daphne Hilton, and we are Blue Mount Music Consultants. You guys, I'm so excited because our show, Conversations with Blue Mount, is now on the OnPoint Network TV.
And you can catch us every Saturday at 10 a.m. Central, streaming on Amazon, Apple TV, Roku channel, the OnPoint channel, and streaming internationally and more.
Yeah, so head on over to our website, www.bluemountmusic.com, for more information.
This is your girl, Calandra.
And this is your girl, Daphne, and we are changing the game for the kingdom.
On point. We're back, ladies and gentlemen. We've had a wonderful discussion. We've found out how you can be helped from your family to your business in so many different ways, and we found out about the webinar. So did you think of the quote that we were trying to think of earlier?
Thank you. That was a smooth lead in. See, that's why you're so good. Yes, it was, if you help enough people get what they want, you could have anything that you want.
Wow. And that goes with anything in life, ladies and gentlemen. You have to be able to serve in order to receive. So this right here has been an eye-opener. It has been a great benefit to you. You need to make sure you go to this webinar. You can see the information below on the screen. If you're watching us live, we will post it in the chat so you can share it with family and friends and watch the webinar tonight. And I'm sure that he'll say other ways of how you can reach him and contact him. And then we'll also have Miss Tiffany Moore later on, where you can get information from her legally here in Black Belt area. So we thank you for joining us on My God My Biz. We want to thank you so much for coming. And did you come all the way from San Diego?
I came from Las Vegas. Yeah,
Las Vegas.
To be here and help support Miss Moore as she grows her business here in the local community. So prayerfully, between the Zoom webinar that we have scheduled and an event that we're going to be doing Sunday, which you can elaborate on, we'll be able to help those of you that are interested in our services and or becoming one of our business partners.
Wow. So you can actually see he's actually helping someone to improve their life and do their business. So until next time, thank you for joining My God My Biz.